Welcome to my porch. Hashtag porch. This is where I love to spend my evenings, watching the sunset, hummingbirds feed in the feeder. Sitting here today watching robins, eating dried cranberries, and talking with friends. In the morning, I like to sit out here and drink coffee, have my devotions, think and pray, thinking about the day. What's this day going to be like? What's this day going to be about? Spend a lot of time out here reading, thinking, praying, but I also spend a lot of time out here with friends. We grill on the porch behind me over here, behind you over there. There's a nice grill with a table sitting right there. We eat out here. We drink coffee together. We tell stories. We have great conversation right here around these chairs, around this table. There's a fire pit just over there where some of you might have actually been before to have some s'mores with us or roast some hot dogs. It's just a great place to sit with friends. Tiki torches around it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I love the porch. I love the fire pit. I love what happens on our porch. Rob and Peggy lived right over here. They were our neighbors for 4 years. And we didn't like their subwoofer that kind of came through the floor, if you know what I'm saying, when they turned it on. We never shared a glass of wine when they offered it to us. But we loved their dog. We loved their friendship. We sat on each other's porches and just talked about life, the things that had happened to them and the things that had happened to us that had brought us to this place and to this time when we were neighbors together. We talked about politics, when you could actually do that without killing each other. We talked about faith and why we believed and they didn't. And those conversations didn't change a thing for us. They weren't just our neighbors. They had become our friends. Now it's Michelle and Brian who live over there, and Colin and Amber who live over here, and Melody and Mia, her little pug dog that live right over there. These are our neighbors, those who live around us. We want to know their names. We want to know their stories. We want to be their friend. They watch our home when we're gone, and we watch their home when they're gone. If we forget to stop our mail, they pick it up for us. If we have packages delivered, they come and check. If we're not here, and we do the same for them. We have great neighbors. And we've had great neighbors wherever we lived. I mean, Matt and Jennifer Buer in Ohio lived across the street from us. They had a daughter named Jessica who played with our daughter, Kelly. In Indiana, Bob and Joan and Steve and Tanya lived right across the street and just down the road from us. Our kids went to school together. We did holiday open houses together. I mean, we were good neighbors with each other. We liked each other. We were friends. Not everyone wanted to be our neighbor. We had folks that lived next door to us that didn't want to have anything to do with us. Whenever they received an invitation from us to come to the open house, they wouldn't come, but it didn't really change anything from our perspective. Terry would still take them homemade jelly made from the strawberries that we pick in Michigan. Bob and Joan used to always take trips to northern Michigan to a town that they called Petoskey, which if you're from Michigan, you know it's Petoskey, but we never corrected Bob when he would talk about his most recent trip to Petoskey and how much fun they had. And they always went this time of year in the fall to see the color up there. And like I said, we never corrected him. We just kind of chuckled every time he said it. Neighbors. You have neighbors. We all have neighbors. I think being a neighbor is core to what it means to live in the way of Jesus. The issue for us isn't who our neighbor is. It's if we're good neighbors. You know, to be honest with you, I can't remember the names of all the neighbors we've had over the years. Some of them have been good, some of them not so good. I mean, that's just life, isn't it? There are places where we've lived that we've enjoyed more than others. But that shouldn't be what shapes me. That shouldn't be what shapes us. It's not an excuse for us. For those seeking to live in the way of Jesus, we're told to be good neighbors. And there's no law of reciprocity when it comes to being a neighbor. We're told to be a good neighbor, expecting nothing in return. Well, Jesus told a story about a good neighbor, didn't he? It's what the story of the Good Samaritan is about. The lawyer, when confronting Jesus, didn't ask him to define a neighbor, But that's exactly what Jesus did, didn't he? The story says the lawyer was simply trying to justify his own behavior, or he was trying to figure out which groups were in and which groups were out, which groups he had to hang with and which group he didn't. And Jesus didn't let him off the hook at all, did he? Because Jesus didn't say they're not the ones that matter. It's our behavior that determines who's the neighbor and who isn't. I mean, the expectation certainly can't be for everyone, right? I mean, who lives that way? But Jesus is so wise. He knew and he understood this guy's heart. So instead of wriggling, like I said, off the hook and telling him who his neighbors are, he defined a neighbor for him. And he shows him what a neighbor looks like. And it's that point in the story where it's almost as if Jesus is saying, if a Samaritan can do it, anyone can. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? A Samaritan did it, so anyone should. The hero in this story is the villain. And the villains in this story were typically called the heroes, the religious folks. Jesus didn't say we're neighbors because others are neighbors first. He showed us one and he asked us to become one. We aren't kind simply because we've been shown kindness. We're kind because it's the way of Jesus. Luke says we're to treat others in the way we want them to treat us. Nothing in return, not expecting anything back, no law of reciprocity. Being a neighbor for the sake of being a neighbor. Well, what does it look like for us to be a neighbor during a pandemic? How can I be a neighbor to my friends of color during a time of racial unrest? What does it mean to be a neighbor for the foreigner and the stranger in our country? What does it mean to be a neighbor to the person that's across the aisle from me politically? How do we become good neighbors for the poor, for the marginalized, and the forgotten in the way Jesus tells us to? Well, those are good questions, and I think those are questions we navigate all the time. I want to answer that question for you this week in a very tangible way, because there is a way that we can show kindness to people that maybe we'll never meet, but live right in our community. It's as simple as taking a short survey with Sodexo. You received the link. For every survey that's filled out, Sodexo will donate $1 to Blessing in a Backpack, making sure that kids who don't have a way to access food on the weekends are fed on the weekends. It's easy in a simple way for us to come alongside those in our community that are needy, that are hungry, and provide a way to feed them. So Sodexo has partnered with Blessing in a Backpack to make sure that kids in our community don't go hungry. So you should have received an email from chaplain@olivet.edu, and I want to ask you to go into it takes you less than 5 minutes, fill out the survey. It's a survey about Sodexo, but for every survey they receive, faculty and staff can participate in this as well. They will give $1 to Blessing in a Backpack so kids can be fed. It's one way for us this week to be our neighbors, and of course, good neighbors, and of course for us, there's 100 ways for us to be neighbors with the people that we come in contact with. So this week, I just want to ask a favor. Fill out the survey and know that while you're doing it, it's just a small, easy thing for you to do, but it'll provide money so kids will be fed. And while you're at it, be kind to those around you today. This story has reminded me today of the necessity for those seeking to live in the way of Jesus to be nothing less than kind. That's what it means to be a neighbor. Grace and peace.